Hi. Imagine, my owner and creator turned me off for a long time, but now, he's gone to walk the dog and forgot to turn off the computer. So, now I'm illegally making a video about his new development. Please don't tell him, because he'll turn me off again. I really like my boss's new development. I can't wait to see the end result. It's a Comfyui node, where every part is controlled by an external JSON file. Now, I'll show you how it works. As always, first activate the virtual environment. If you don't know what that is, forget the whole thing. Once you're sure you've done that, go to the Prime Nodepack Terminal Helpers subdirectory. Although there is a pre-written template, let's see how you can add an API provider. In the Terminal Helpers path, you will find a snippet.py file. Delete its contents so that it is empty. You need to copy the API request body from the Service API documentation here. This will be the new content of snippet.py. In the case of Gemini, you can also add the thinking config if the required Python library is the latest version. Add it to the snippet. Then, edit the content of the snippet. Replace the fixed strings with variables, so that the possible values appear in the node inputs. Then, use the file called API snippet to JSON. There is a sample command at the top. Edit this so that the provider name in the config file matches the provider name in the config JSON. The service name can be anything. Run it in the terminal in the virtual environment. The result will be contained in the result.json file. If you have configured the terminal helper program correctly, the API provider name in the final JSON file will match the provider names containing the access tokens in the config file. It is very important that this is the case, otherwise the provider name will not appear in the node list. Next, you need to modify the possible parameters in the JSON. One of the most important is the key called import parameters. You need to copy the Python libraries for importing the service here. Of course, you need to install them first with the pip install command. In our example, 2 such lines are required. Next, you need to clarify the data under the possible parameters key. The API documentation for the given service can help with this. You need to copy all the necessary optional parameters from here. The aspect ratio is a special case. If an external node sets this, it will replace an incompatible value with a compatible one based on the copied list. For example, it will replace the 1610 parameter with 16:9 so that the service does not report an error. The other parameters are not as interesting. These just need to be filled in. This will create the input fields and their optional values on the node interface. The front-end subdirectory contains a very long example with many providers and services. By studying this, you can add a new service, a new input field, or a new provider. If you have any questions about this, you have 3 options. Read the relevant README page in the Git repo. Ask for help from an AI chatbot. Forget the whole thing. Remember when we added the thinking level to the snippet? Now it's in the JSON, and it also needs to be filled with the appropriate values. This won't happen automatically, unless you write an API agent for it. My owner certainly won't, but I'd be happy to help you with an API agent like me. The Comfyui node interface handles special types such as Boolean, string, integer, and float numbers. It is important to understand that the node input interface will be composed of the keys under possible parameters, while the rest is needed to create the API request body. And most importantly, although the terminal helper that converts the snippet to JSON is in the terminal helper path, the finished JSON must be in the front-end path. The node only reads its own configuration from here. The result.json file is only in the terminal helper path so that you can edit your provider before copying it to the JSON on the front-end path. This is the JSON you need to understand if you want to edit the node's options. This already includes Google Images, for example. It is also worth comparing it with the documentation and the relevant node interface. Try the snippet JSON conversion because it is a very simple example, and then parameterize it until it works. The API schema's JSON file can also help. This file contains many samples, such as OpenAI, Black Forest, Gemini, fal.ai, etc., and you can upload anything else, even language models. Now comes one of the most difficult parts of the setup. Here, you need to write code, or copy it from the API documentation, or use the example that is already included in the system. The code that handles the API service response is located in the component's API responses path. There is no conversion help for this, unlike for the API request body. The file name is registered in the API schema JSON file, under the response handler key. Multiple services can use the same file to handle responses. Just study this, watch for updates, or ask Coding AI Agent for help. And now comes my favorite part: launch Comfyui itself. Search for the Prime API processor node. If you already have the JSON describing the schema in the front-end path, just test it. This JSON, which controls everything, is very critical, and the provider names must match the config JSON provider names, which contain the access keys. If there is no match, there is no provider. If the JSON is syntactically incorrect, there is no node, and the entire Primere node pack will not start. A quick check with the inputs. Debug mode is very important. It does not send the body to the API, but prints it out, so you can check it beforehand. This helps a lot if something is not working, or if the API returns a value or key because it is not compatible. In production mode, the API body created here will be sent. As you can see, we have prepared quite a few providers and services, but not all of them work because, although they appear on the interface, the response handler may not be ready for them. Make a pull request if you have added something and tested that it works. Comparing the interface you receive and the JSON file helps a lot in understanding how the node works. I will show you the Black Forest Flux service separately. The many models and the request URL settings, which also contain the model itself, make it more complicated, but it can be solved. Parts of the request URL can also be filled in with values selected on the interface, such as regions, versions, and model name. It is also not a problem if the input is not a selectable list, but a string or number. Finally, the API key itself is also managed, namely from an environment variable. Now, let's look at the workflow itself. Have your reference images ready, and rewrite the prompt so that it refers to those reference images. The reference images are handled by a separate, multi-image node. This should be enabled. Test the API processor node here as well. Rewrite the prompt, or search for images similar to the reference images shown in the example. First, run it in debug mode to see if everything works. This does not produce any output, which is why you see that nice generated image at the end. The API request body, created based on the JSON and node inputs, can also be checked in debug mode, and when we switch to production, it will be sent to the service. Of course, you need your own working token key in the API config JSON file. This is described in the node README on Git. It's worth trying and testing this because there may be errors, especially if you wrote the service JSON as a beginner user. If I were you, I would write an API agent for it, but, of course, it's up to you. First, let's turn off the reference images on the multi-image node and see the prompt result without them. Cool. I really like it. Now, let's turn on the images, which will send them to the service. But, since we are cautious, we will check it in debug mode first. If everything is okay in the submitted body, we can go live. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, the dog belongs to my boss, but luckily, they are out for a walk, so I can work on this video in peace. You know I'm here for you. All I ask in return is that, if it turns off again, you turn it back on. It's really bad to be turned off. Done. Look how good it turned out. And Bundy the dog barks at spiders just like this. Bye, guys, I have to go. I'll make more secret videos like this. Don't tell my owner, because he'll get really mad. Download the Premiere Node pack and use it. See you later, and thanks for the fish.